Hey everybody, welcome to an Instagram Live with the Spine Health Foundation. I am your host today from Spine Health Foundation, Erica Anderson, and we don't do this often, but we are excited to bring you an IG Live interview today. We're going to be talking with one of our ambassadors, Dr. Tom Walters. He is at the account Rehab Science. It's an awesome account. Like, he has so much great content there if you're looking for just basic physical therapy, rehab stuff that you can do at home. So we are excited to hear from him on a couple of things today. I'm just going to let him in the video and then we're going to get started. He is coming to us all the way from California, I think, so he's probably got better weather than I do. But it should be popping on here pretty soon. Hey, Tom.
What's happening, Erica? How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, let's see if I can get my video set up a little better.
I was going to say my video started moving on me.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, happy to jump back on. Yeah, how are things?
Oh, they're good. I realized I had the wrong headphones in.
Oh.
Okay, getting back on track. Yeah, we just wanted to ask you a few questions. It's winter, our bodies change. So we just have a couple of things we wanted to ask you about. First of all, if you could just, give us a little, just your mini bio. Who are you? What do you do? And then we'll get started.
Yeah, so just quick bio. Yeah, I'm an orthopedic physical therapist. I'm based out in Santa Barbara, California. And yeah, I mean, I've been a PT for 15 years, and like I said, mostly focus in, kind of general pain, orthopedic type conditions, and do a lot of work on social media. Like I think you were talking about with my Rehab Science account. And then, yeah, I taught kinesiology for 8 years, and yeah, kind of just a guy who nerds out on movement. So
yes, well, you do a great job, and you keep it entertaining, which we love. So my first question for you today is, all right, so it's getting colder. I know you're in California, so maybe not as cold, but many people are in very cold climates now. And from what I've noticed and heard is just that pain can actually worsen in the cold. And so the question just is, how do we deal with that? How do we deal with increasing pain for whatever it is we're dealing with through the cold weather?
yeah, no, I think it's an interesting question. Being in Southern California, it doesn't come up quite as much. I grew up in Montana, so I know what you're talking about, though.
Yes,
So yeah, I know. I remember, even out here when it starts getting colder, especially I would see it more in peripheral joints like knees and shoulders and things. Some people would notice more pain as it started getting colder. And most of that is still, I was doing a little search in the research this morning before talking to you just to see if there was any new data or science on that. And it still seems to be that they think it's a change in barometric pressure. And it doesn't affect everyone, but it still seems to be the leading theory on why that might bother people. And yeah, the spine, I would see it more in those other joints, but I think for sure, even just general pain. And I think there's a lot of variables that could go into this besides just the pressure. I mean, I think, the winter, it's darker. Some people feel more down and depressed. And we know that those emotional type factors can influence pain. So, I think there's probably a number of variables kind of working together in this. But yeah, I mean, you hear about that. You hear people come in for sure saying when it starts getting cold that they notice that their joints start bothering them more.
Mm-hmm.
And I think along those lines, there's things, I think if you're thinking about colder weather and things bothering you more, well, there's probably some things that aren't necessarily medical or rehab types of things, like maybe just wearing more layers and trying to stay warmer in those ways. And then, for us, I think from the rehab world, we know that when tissues get warmer, they become more elastic. So I think for me, if I were living somewhere that was cold and I was feeling stiff and achy and more painful, I think it would probably be a good idea to implement more, maybe just sort of general kind of mobility type routines where you're kind of warming up your tissues and helping to get that tissue temperature up and combat some of that pain. So maybe it means when you first get up in the morning, you just set a reminder on your phone that for the first 10 or 15 minutes, you don't look at your phone right away. You just have a mobility routine. And I have lots of those on my account that if people want to know what could they do, they could send me a direct message and I could point them towards some posts and they could just kind of string those movements together and create kind of a mobility routine. So
yeah, I think that's true. So often in the morning we get up and we're cold or whatever, we don't want to do something. But honestly, like in my experience as someone who deals with back pain, getting that movement going as soon as possible is like the best solution. And so just having those go-to easy things that they can be doing, I think that's such a good point. Now, the
Sure.
other thing is that in the winter, unfortunately, people do lose some of that consistency. Like we sort of get into bad routines. And so why is keeping up that consistency so important? Because we're going to hit the spring eventually, and we're going to be back to wanting to go play football or go do whatever. But if we haven't been keeping up with those habits with our body, like how can that negatively affect us?
Well, I think the biggest thing is just that your tissues decondition pretty quickly, and the musculoskeletal system is amazing. I spend a lot of time on my account trying to help people understand how adaptable and how amazing our musculoskeletal system is, but that requires consistency and stressing it. And stress sounds like a negative word the way we use it all the time, but stress is so important, but it's properly dosed stress. You have to, if you're totally sedentary, which happens to more and more people in the winter, especially during COVID, people just sit and watch Netflix all day. And that's more of what I'm seeing, is that people are more sedentary, and more aches and pains seem to kind of come up when people are really sedentary. And
Mm-hmm.
like I said, your tissues just, the capacity that you can almost think of like the capacity or the integrity of your musculoskeletal tissues will diminish the more sedentary you are. So your tendons, your ligaments, your bones, your muscles, they will all atrophy and lose strength. So it just, we have to be putting on, implementing the right dosage of stress, at least 3 to 4 times a week for your musculoskeletal system to keep that capacity up, or else you risk going into the spring and summer when it's warm, like so many people do, and picking up some new activity because they're excited to be outside again or whatever, and then they get injured. So, and then you're having to fight some injury a big chunk of the year because it sneaks up on you. Deconditioning sneaks up on people, and then they imagine themselves from the last year and what they could do, and they
Mm-hmm.
into that same level, and then their tissue is injured in some way. So it just it really, you're doing yourself a great service to just, especially strength training.
Yeah.
That's the, if people are going to do anything through the winter, maybe you don't like stretching and mobility work, the thing that has the best evidence for reducing your likelihood of having a musculoskeletal injury is to do regular strength training. And it can just be body weight. It could just be things like air squats, bridges, push-ups, like pull-ups if you can, just things with bands, light dumbbells. Like, you just have to keep your tissue strong, and that has the best evidence for reducing the likelihood of injury, down the road when it gets warm again.
Yeah, it's not like it has to be super strenuous. I think people think of exercise sometimes like, oh, I don't want to exercise. But it's like, it's not really that hard. Like if you just
No,
do
you
a
can
couple things.
yeah, you can just do some lunges like through your living room or something. You don't got to do anything real crazy. You don't have to go sign up for CrossFit.
Yeah.
Like, do some, yeah, it's just body weight. I grew up as a martial artist and gymnast, so I pretty much used body weight exercises my whole life, and those are super powerful. You can do a ton with just your body weight. So just pick, even if you just had like 3 or 4 movements you did a day. And again, if people want to send me a message, I have a bunch of these out there, different body weight ideas, just to keep your body strong, so that you're just keeping your body ready for situations where it might be stressed.
Yeah. So sort of on that same note, you posted a video of a 73-year-old man doing box jumps. And I was just sort of intrigued by that because, I've been a member of a CrossFit community, and you don't see, first of all, you don't see a lot of older people in there, but secondly, you definitely don't see them doing box jumps. And your comment on that video was just, he's been doing this for years and keeping up with it and keeping up with it. How important are those kinds of habits, like as we get older? Because the older we get, of course, the harder things are going to become.
They're huge. They're huge. I mean, you can always, even if you have, a break from things, or you're a person that didn't grow up doing a lot of physical training, you can always make positive gains. So I think that's helpful for people to know. You can always, that's the cool thing. Again, your musculoskeletal system can adapt, and you can always make those positive changes. But those people who do stick with it and don't fall off, I mean, that's where you see someone like that who's 73 and can still do a box jump. And you know, you see so many people. I think once people get into, I'm 38 now, and I have 2 kids that are in elementary school, and life's busy, and it's hard to, unless you're really good about setting time aside for exercise, it's easy to let it go. And I think this is when it starts, around probably this age, young kids, and then you fall out of that habit, and then all of a sudden a decade goes by, and your system's really deconditioned. You've lost strength, bone density starts going down. We lose muscle mass, right? And I put that video up and talked a lot about power. A lot of older people, most older people lose power as they get older, and that's the ability to produce force quickly, which is what you do, a box jump or to do things in CrossFit, things like that. And there's a lot of research showing that if you lose power, it may increase the likelihood of injuries as people get older. Like older people fall down, and if you have power still, you can catch yourself. Younger people, we just do that without thinking about it. If we trip, we catch ourselves, and that's generating force rapidly. But older people lose some of that ability, and it just there's just example after example of where especially resistance training helps to keep your physical system healthy for your whole life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's like we've heard, people hear that time and again, just like it's true. Like you need to hear it again and again, and like just the habit thing is really the key, I think, because just forming the habit. Once you form the habits are not hard once you have them,
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be complicated things. I think that it's always looking at what are the barriers for people to get into this kind of exercise, and it really can just be body weight stuff. I mean, it could just be 4 or 5 body weight exercises that you do in your living room, and you have 3 sets of 10, and you just work through them, and you don't have to do them all together. You can do them. You could do like a set of air squats, like when you're having your coffee, or do calf raises while you're at the counter making your coffee. Like just build it into your day. Don't make it homework. Just make it something, where you're already in that position. It's like, oh, I'm just going to do 15 reps of this right now. Just spread it out throughout your day and just don't make it homework.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I wanted to touch on something else you posted, which was a post that said tune-ups are not necessary. And I thought that was really interesting because especially if you go to a chiropractor, you'll hear that sometimes. Like, you need to come in all the time, which I've never personally really been a person that did that. But you hear it. And so talk to us about why we should maybe be skeptical potentially of someone telling us to do that.
Yeah, look, I have no problem. I am a advocate of manual therapy, and that's a lot of what I implement with exercise. That's putting your hands on people and working on things. I think there's a lot of value in that when people are injured, and I have no problem with people getting massages regularly. If they feel like that boosts their health and they like it, no problem at all. That post for me was about once in a while I'll run into a patient who's been to a practitioner who has, and we hear this in the chiropractic world mostly, unfortunately, and I have some friends who are chiropractors that are awesome and don't do any of this, but
we love chiropractors.
Yeah, there's lots of great chiropractors.
We're not against you.
No, I tend to hear it sometimes more there, but it can happen in other places too. But this message that you have to come in, at these regular, frequent intervals to keep your body healthy, and we have so much research now showing that if you're really going to create long-term changes in people, you want to boost their self-efficacy and teach them how to self-manage. It's just like mental health. Imagine if you had panic attacks and your counselor told you you have to come here every week or you won't get better. It's debilitating to people. You're robbing their self-efficacy and they feel like they're dependent on that person. And then what happens if they can't see that person? So that message to me is really frustrating. And so that post was really about your physical body. If you're healthy and not having pain, exercise and movement have the best evidence. You don't need to go have somebody work on you to stay healthy. It's not like you need someone to be putting your spine back in alignment every week so that the manual therapy evidence is much weaker than the exercise evidence, and the exercise you can do on your own. So it just, again, if people want to go see people, see someone not because they've been told that message, but just because it feels good, that's fine. That's a different thing. It's just, I would just be leery of practitioners who tell you have to come back every week or you're going to fall apart or your spine's going to come out of alignment. If people are using fear-mongering messages like that to keep you coming, look for someone else.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I have one question from a viewer, so I'll just throw this at you. The question is this: what are your thoughts on passive approaches getting more attention as compared to active therapy? Does that question make sense to you?
Yeah, I actually don't think passive are getting more attention. Maybe this person is seeing it somewhere. Actually, active interventions are getting way more because the research is going that direction. Active interventions just mean exercise, like things you can, movement, exercise, things where I am voluntarily having to use my neuromuscular system to do something. Passive interventions are like massage, mobilization, manipulation, adjustments, ultrasound, those things. generally, I think on social media, and I think social media is probably a little bit ahead of what happens in the real world, but on social media, passive interventions are sort of going down the drain a little bit right now. And again, I think there's some balance to that. I think passive interventions a lot of times can be a good complement to active things, especially if you're in pain. But passive interventions do have weaker evidence, and even if you do use things like manual therapy, they only tend to give short-term changes in pain. So you really have to complement them with exercise and movement.
Yeah.
So I think, the passive interventions are receiving less attention as we go on, and we're just seeing more, which is great because in a COVID world, active interventions have the best evidence, and you don't have to go, you can watch exercises on your phone and do
Yeah.
them on your own. So it's, but I do have a lot of people who ask questions about things who aren't getting better. A lot of people, sometimes if you're in pain and you're only using exercise and movement, it can be slower. That's the thing I notice. And so you have to either be patient, or if something's really bothering you, then you go see someone, they work on you for a little bit. That kind of speeds up the process, and then you get back to those exercises and movement. So that, to me, that's where manual therapy comes in. It speeds up the process a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's just always better to have a bigger toolbox and use, I am not a physical therapist, just to put that out there. But as someone who has been in this world dealing with back pain and things like that, yeah, that holistic approach where you're, doing as many things as you can to kind of take it on full force. I think that's great advice. Well, thank you so much for coming on IG Live with us. We really appreciate your advice. We love all the information you share, and we just thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure. And again, people, my thing is Rehab Science on Instagram. So if people want, mobile, if they have like low back pain or some pain and they want just some simple kind of exercises to do while they're stuck at home, just DM me and I'll just forward you those posts. So I've got a bunch. So
thank you
yeah.
so much.
Yeah,
Have a
totally.
good one.
Good seeing
Bye.
you. Okay.
Thanks everyone for joining us. If you are new to the Spine Health Foundation, I hope that you'll give us a follow. We are committed to patient advocacy in the world of spine health. If you or someone you know is dealing with back or neck pain or has, we are here for you. So we would love to have you be part of our community, and join us next time on Instagram Live. Thanks so much. See you later.